Welcome to the Science Plus Love Equals Cure podcast, the STXBP1 10-minute monthly update. This is podcast number 23. I'm Charlene Sun-Rigby, president and co-founder of the STXBP1 Foundation, and I'm also mom to STXer Juno and her big brother Luca. Okay, today's topics: STXBP1 Census and diagnostic guidelines, a couple quick items on the Summit live stream and Move to Cure. And then we're going to spend most of our time today chatting with STXBP1 dad and now marathoner Dan Booth. All right, our first topic: STXBP1 census and diagnostic guidelines. So our Q2 census, which we do with STXBP1 Global Connect, was just published. Our STXBP1 community continues to grow by leaps and bounds. We are now at 1,378 patients in 57 countries. And in Q2, we added 68 new patients. We now have a handy graph on our census page on our website that shows growth each quarter. And so in this year, in 2025, we have added over 150 patients. This still startles me because I remember when Juno was diagnosed, and there were months where only one family would join the Facebook group during that time. So standard of care is changing, and that's a major reason why our patient community is growing more quickly. And so this is hot off the presses. Just last week, the American Academy of Pediatrics changed its guidance. So they are now recommending that exome and genome testing be used as first-tier tests. So what does this mean? This means that it would be the first diagnostic test to use instead of maybe multiple tests, and this being a test that's used after a negative was received for other types of testing. And this is specific to children with global developmental delay or intellectual disability. So there have been a lot of efforts to try to convince the American Academy of Pediatrics, or the AAP, to update their guidance. Just to give you a little history, the American College of Medical Genetics has been recommending exome and genome testing as a first-line test for either intellectual disability or congenital anomalies since 2021. So that's actually 4 years ago. And the US's National Society of Genetic Counselors and the American Epilepsy Society also support genomic testing for unexplained epilepsy. I also wanted to point out that the European Society for Human Genetics updated its guidelines in 2022 to acknowledge the increased adoption of whole genome sequencing for diagnostic testing, even though it didn't directly provide guidance on first-line usage. So I'm really happy about this new guidance from the American Academy of Pediatrics. It's going to help families access genomic testing to help their kids, and we'll likely continue to see a more rapidly growing community for STXBP1, as well as other neurodevelopmental disorders. So back to the census, some of you have been asking about the world map on our website. We are upgrading some of the tech behind the scenes, so we apologize. The world map right now is saying that it's under construction. It has a message on top of the map, and we anticipate it will be back up and running soon. And thank you for your understanding. We're glad you're trying to use it. All right, second topic, 2 quick items. First, the STXBP1 Summit will be held July 18 to 20. Registration for on-site participation has closed, but you can still join the live stream. The live stream will include captions in multiple languages, so live captions in multiple languages, and you can enter questions to be part of the conversation. So register for the live stream on our website. All right, Move to Cure. Our signature fundraising and community building event will take place during September's STXBP1 Awareness Month. Be on the watch for more information coming soon. Okay, our third topic. I had the chance to interview Dan Booth. Dan is dad to STXer Charlie, and he decided to run, and run for STXBP1, 5 marathons in 5 days, and he is still standing. Let's listen in to the conversation with Dan. Hi, I'm here with Dan Booth and excited to talk with him about his amazing 5 marathons in 5 days for STXBP1. So, Dan, welcome.
Thanks. Hi. Thanks for having me on.
Well, we were very, very impressed about how you just burst on the scene and came up with this amazing plan. I want to hear all about it, and maybe we could start out. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got into the STXBP1 community, a little bit about your son and your experience?
Yeah, of course. So my name's Dan. I'm from a place called Stoke-on-Trent in the UK, which is somewhere between Manchester and Birmingham, if anyone's interested. And yeah, so me and my wife, we had our first child, Charlie, just over 3.5 years ago. Um, and Charlie was ultimately our introduction to the STXBP1 community. Like a lot of families, we sort of had a bit of a tumultuous first month of Charlie's life. When he was born, he started having seizures, and so then I guess our journey started there of the doctors trying to figure out what was going on. Um, we had the usual roller coaster in hospital of, oh, they think it's just neonatal seizures and they think it's benign seizures and it's all fine. And then we got the genetic report and yeah, and we got told STXBP1. And it was interesting actually because I recorded all of our meetings we had with the doctors just because it's such a brain foggy time. And it's really interesting listening back to some of the voice notes and just how sort of wrong some of the information we were told was, and obviously we had no idea. And so yeah, so I guess that started the journey of a lot of research, a lot of Googling, and trying to figure out what our life was going to look like. Um, and yeah, so then I think, as I was sort of saying, I think like what a lot of families felt a little bit alone with it, in truth, when you hear your kid's got a rare genetic disorder. And then started connecting with a few people from Facebook, and yeah, and it just sort of grew and grew, and that was a sort of introduction to the community, basically.
That was great. That's great. Yeah, that's a really interesting idea to record your conversations because remembering what that was like when we got our diagnosis for Juno, there's so much. It's so overwhelming, and so there's a lot of probably useful information that is completely lost. And then, I think your point around it is a real challenge. There are not a lot of doctors who are familiar with STXBP1 and so yeah, I remember we got two scientific papers and a printout of a Facebook group, and our geneticist basically said, "I have never diagnosed a kid with this," and and yeah, the Facebook group was a saver. I mean, it opened up a whole world for us. So why running? Do you have a running background?
Not really. I've always been like fairly active. I'll play football to a very average standard. And yeah, and then maybe like a year and a half ago, my wife's extended family, they said, "Oh, you should come and do park run," which is a thing. I thought it's a worldwide thing, isn't it? And so I did a park run on a Saturday, and just quite enjoyed it. So then kept going to park run on Saturdays, which is only like a 5K. But then got quite competitive with myself and Liz's family. They're all really, really fantastic runners. So they're all far better than I am. And so I always was just chasing them. And then Lizzie's cousin did a challenge to raise money for a charity called Guts UK, and he ran half a marathon every week to raise money, and he raised a really good amount of money. There was loads of sort of awareness around this charity, and I just thought, oh, I think it was the sort of it's a physical but mental challenge as well. And I think that's what really hit home. So I thought, well, maybe that's something I could do to try and raise some money for STXBP1. Like, need to try and create a big challenge, which hopefully get people thinking, surely not, surely it's not going to do that. And then hopefully you have something with a bit of jeopardy, like, will I actually be able to do it? I thought was a sort of an element to it as well. And so I thought I just need to do something big, something bold, and yeah. And so that's and it sounded good in my head. 5 marathons in 5 days. It sort of rolls off the tongue. And it just
Absolutely. And how long did you train for this? Because so I am definitely um I have run. I
okay.
can run, but I've never run a full marathon. I've run like a half marathon, but even that took a
Oh,
lot of
nice.
preparation, and I only did one on one day, and you did five. So what was your training like?
So I got in touch with I just got in touch with an ultra marathon coach I just found him on Instagram, and he seemed nice and had lots of records and knew what he was doing. So I just contacted him, and he basically devised like a 6 month training program, and that was like my life for 6 months really. I'd slowly increase the distance I was running each week. To the point where I was running, I think the most I ran was, and before the challenge was like 3 marathons in a week before I actually went and did the challenge. So it was just ramping up basically, just preparing my body because I wasn't doing it, I wasn't planning on doing it quickly or anything. I just needed to get it done. So it was just about getting miles in my legs more than anything.
That's cool. Well, I am really amazed, and you've raised a lot of money for for STXBP1. How much have you raised so far?
Yeah, so I mean, I started out when I spoke to my wife, we were thinking let's aim for about £3,000 if we can. But then we were doing 5 and 5. And then Melissa from the foundation, she was like, it's got to be 5 grand, surely. I was like, oh, okay, let's push the boat out and go 5 grand. And then my wife and I, we released a video to say we were doing it, and we hit 5 grand within like a week or two. And so we were like, oh no. So I've actually got to do this now. So we upped it to 10 grand after a little bit of coercion, not really thinking I'd get there, but I think the point was, which I get now really, was it's better to miss your target because some people might try and help you get there, right? It might be more of a, oh, come on, let's give me another 50 quid to try and get in there. But then everyone was just like really, really generous. Lots of people I've not spoken to in years donated, and all of our family and our friends were really generous. And we're waiting on just one more donation to come through, and we'll have made it £15,500.
Wow, that's amazing. And the fundraiser is still open, right? So if people hear this and they want to donate, I can put the link in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's still open. I'm gonna keep it open for a little while,
Mm,
because we've got some sort of other ideas of how of things we can do. And so yeah, so it's gonna be open for a little while.
okay, cool. Well, I wanted to ask you, what makes you hopeful right now? What are you um, hopeful about either, right now in terms of, Charlie as today or more generally in the community?
I think there's lots of reasons to be hopeful. I think in terms of directly for Charlie, what we're hopeful for, like Charlie is constantly learning new things, and I guess importantly he's a really happy chappy, which is all we can ask for. But obviously all these clinical trials that are happening with the gene therapy, I think there's a lot of reason to be hopeful with that. As you know, I did a bit of a deep dive on all of the results they were getting from their initial non-human trials, and it feels like science fiction almost that the results they're getting are so wildly sort of successful. And so I think it's hopeful for a lot of people that can make a real powerful difference, but that's not just for specifically for Charlie and for people who are currently diagnosed with STXBP1, but for all the kids who are going to be born over the coming years and hopefully can benefit from this sort of stuff if it's successful. Um but I think there's lots of reason to be hopeful, even if the trials don't work. I think that's a reason to be excited and happy because it's good to know if it didn't work. Hey, it didn't work. We've got to find another way. We've got to keep looking. And yeah, I think there's a lot of reason to just be excited for the future
Yeah.
for everyone really.
Yeah, I agree with all of your points. Juno's birthday was yesterday. And
Oh,
yeah,
happy
so
birthday yesterday.
she just turned 12, and
Wow.
like she's just a happy kid, and like I think that that's the most important things. I mean, there are so many hard won milestones in terms of what everybody's calling inch stones, and those are really important. And
Yeah.
at the same time, it's really like gratifying, to see her laugh. And I also am excited about this upcoming, trial, and eager to, learn, from it, and hopeful that it will really make a difference for our kids. I also am excited about the fact that we have a big, a large and growing
Mm,
other drugs that are in the pipeline. And so, like the funding that, you have driven, and that, we are driving through other fundraising is so important because it really helps us to invest in these programs, because I also think that it's possible that at the end of the day, some therapies might be better for some
mm.
groups of kids versus other groups of, sorry, patients, not just kids, but all of our patients, that might work better for certain populations because of you know their age or the way that they're administered or what have you. And so I'm very excited about this time. So.
Yeah, it's wild, for all of the time that STXBP1's been around, we just happen to be sort of alive whilst it all seems to be happening, and it all seems, there's a lot of excitement, a lot of buzz, and all these really clever people are doing their best to sort of make the best of the situation. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a really exciting time, but I think it's also a time where you sort of have to take stock, right? And you just sort of I think for us, we just constantly feel really lucky to have Charlie and to have him the way he, the way his personality is, and just him as a person, he's wonderful. Plays really well with his little brother Freddie, and he's just, he's great. And so I think it's a sort of a challenge, isn't it, of being excited about the future, but then also just still being grateful for what we have, I guess.
Today. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Dan, for joining us on the Science Plus Love Equals Cure podcast. We will look forward to, I don't know if you're going to do this again, the 5+5, or morph into some other, it sounds like you love like the athletic challenge. So we'll wait to see.
We're thinking of something stupid. So if anyone's got any like stupid ideas for things that we can do, like even more stupid than 5 marathons in 5 days, let me know because I'm in the market for stupid, basically.
There you go. All right. Well, reach out to Dan or reach out through us through the podcast, and we will get your ideas to him. Thank you so much.
Cheers, thanks.